Have you ever stepped on the scale after 40 and felt a wave of frustration rush over you, wondering how your body could change so quickly without warning? One week your clothes fit comfortably, and the next your rings feel tight, your abdomen feels swollen, and your reflection seems unfamiliar. You question your discipline, your diet, even your effort. But what if I told you the story unfolding inside your body is not about failure, not about weakness, and not about losing control? What if the swelling, the puffiness, and the sudden fluctuations are signals, not sabotage? As we step into the truth behind water retention after 40, how hormones and inflammation cause swelling, you begin to understand that the body is not your enemy. It is communicating. It is adapting. It is responding to powerful shifts that deserve understanding instead of judgment. In midlife, hormones begin to fluctuate in ways that are subtle at first and then surprisingly intense. Estrogen, a hormone that once followed a more predictable rhythm, begins to rise and fall in uneven patterns. And when estrogen shifts, sodium balance shifts with it. Where sodium goes, water follows. This is not a metaphor. It is physiology. When estrogen levels rise or drop unpredictably, the body may retain more sodium in the kidneys. That sodium pulls water into tissues, leading to bloating, breast tenderness, swollen fingers, abdominal pressure, and a heaviness that feels deeply personal even though it is profoundly biological. The scale may rise, but that number is not a reflection of fat gain. It is fluid, temporarily held because the body is responding to hormonal signals that no longer operate on a simple schedule. Many women blame themselves during this stage. They cut calories, they increase cardio, they try harsher diets. Yet the swelling persists because the root cause is not excess food. It is fluctuating chemistry. Understanding this changes everything. When you realize your body is not betraying you but recalibrating, you shift from punishment to partnership. You stop fighting your physiology and start supporting it. But estrogen is only part of the story. There is another force quietly amplifying the effect, and that force is inflammation. Low-grade chronic inflammation becomes more common with age due to stress, gut imbalances, processed foods, sleep disruption, and environmental stressors. Inflammatory mediators affect vascular permeability, meaning your blood vessels become more reactive and more likely to leak fluid into surrounding tissues. That leak is subtle, but over time it creates visible swelling. It makes rings tighter and waistbands less forgiving. It creates a feeling of being inflamed from the inside out. Hormonal signaling and inflammation do not operate separately. They influence each other in a powerful loop. When inflammation rises, hormone signaling becomes less efficient. When hormones fluctuate, inflammatory pathways can become more active. This cycle can make fluid retention more persistent and more confusing. And perhaps the most frustrating part is that traditional advice rarely addresses this interaction. You are told to drink less water, to cut salt entirely, or to accept it as inevitable. But the truth is far more empowering. The body retains water not because it is broken, but because it is responding to signals. Those signals can be understood, they can be supported, and they can be balanced. When you begin to see swelling as communication rather than condemnation, something shifts internally. Instead of panic, curiosity emerges. Instead of self-criticism, awareness grows. The question transforms from what is wrong with me to what is my body asking for. That question is powerful. It opens the door to science-based solutions, mineral balance, blood sugar stability, and inflammatory calm. It reminds you that your body is dynamic, intelligent, and capable of restoration. And as we move deeper into this journey, you will discover that the very symptoms causing frustration may actually be guiding you toward a deeper understanding of your health than you have ever had before. Just when you begin to understand that hormones and inflammation are influencing your body, another layer of truth begins to surface, and this is where the suspense deepens. Because if estrogen and inflammatory mediators are shaping fluid retention, then the question becomes even more urgent. What is driving those fluctuations so intensely after 40? The answer is not singular. It is a web of interconnected systems, each influencing the other in ways that are both subtle and powerful. Stress becomes a silent amplifier. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, rises more easily and remains elevated longer when sleep is disrupted or responsibilities increase. Elevated cortisol can increase sodium retention directly and indirectly influence blood sugar instability. When blood sugar rises and crashes repeatedly, insulin levels surge. Insulin itself encourages the kidneys to retain sodium, and again, where sodium goes, water follows. Suddenly, swelling is not just about estrogen. It is about stress, metabolic rhythm, and the nervous system's response to modern life. The body begins to hold on to fluid as though preparing for a threat that never fully passes. You may wake up feeling tight, heavy, or inflamed, even if your diet has not changed. This is where many people lose hope because the changes feel unpredictable and unfair. But the body is not acting randomly, it is responding to signals that have accumulated over time. And here's the turning point that few talk about. The gut plays a pivotal role in this entire cascade. The intestinal lining is not just a digestive surface. It is a regulatory interface between the immune system and the external world. When gut health is compromised by processed foods, chronic stress, antibiotic history, or lack of dietary fiber, inflammatory signaling increases. That signaling does not stay confined to the gut. It travels through the bloodstream, influencing vascular tone, hormonal balance, and immune activation. Increased inflammatory mediators can make blood vessels more permeable, allowing more fluid to shift into tissues. This amplifies swelling and bloating in ways that feel stubborn and resistant to quick fixes. And yet, most solutions offered are temporary. Diuretics may remove water briefly, but they do not address the hormonal fluctuations or inflammatory drivers beneath the surface. Extreme sodium restriction may backfire, causing the body to cling even more tightly to minerals in an attempt to maintain equilibrium. The suspense lies in recognizing that the very strategies often promoted as solutions may be reinforcing the cycle. The body seeks balance, not deprivation. It seeks stability, not extremes. Mineral balance becomes crucial in this context. Potassium and magnesium play essential roles in regulating fluid distribution and cellular function. When dietary potassium is too low relative to sodium, fluid shifts become exaggerated. Magnesium supports vascular relaxation and stress modulation, helping to reduce cortisol's impact on fluid retention. Stabilizing blood sugar through balanced meals that include protein, healthy fats, and fiber reduces insulin spikes, which in turn reduces sodium retention. Movement, especially gentle activities that support lymphatic flow, such as walking or light resistance training, encourages fluid circulation rather than stagnation. These are not dramatic interventions. They are consistent, intelligent adjustments that work with the body instead of against it. And here is the deeper realization that changes everything. Fluid retention after 40 is not a verdict. It is feedback. It is a message that your body is recalibrating under new hormonal conditions and asking for a different form of support. When you respond with nourishment instead of restriction, with stability instead of extremes, the body begins to respond differently. The swelling that once felt like betrayal begins to soften. The puffiness becomes less persistent. The scale fluctuations feel less threatening because you understand their origin, and as this awareness builds, confidence returns. You realize you are not at the mercy of random changes. You are learning to interpret signals that were once misunderstood. The suspense gives way to empowerment, and empowerment opens the door to lasting transformation grounded not in punishment, but in physiological wisdom. It reminds you that your body is dynamic, intelligent, and capable of restoration. And as we move deeper into this journey, you will discover that the very symptoms causing frustration may actually be guiding you toward a deeper understanding of your health than you have ever had before. As you reach this final stage of understanding, something profound settles in, because clarity replaces confusion and intention replaces fear. You now see that fluid retention in midlife is not an unsolvable mystery, but a pattern that can be gently guided back into balance. When hormonal fluctuations and inflammation are addressed together, the body no longer feels the need to hold excess water as a protective response. Supporting mineral balance becomes an act of respect rather than control. Choosing foods rich in potassium, magnesium, and natural fiber is no longer about restriction, but restoration. Blood sugar stability becomes a foundation, not a trend, allowing insulin and cortisol to calm instead of spike. With each balanced meal, each steady habit, the internal environment grows quieter. The body senses safety. Inflammation softens. Vascular tissues regain resilience. Fluid begins to move instead of pool. And perhaps the most empowering realization is that none of this requires extreme dieting, harsh supplements, or punishing routines. It requires consistency, patience, and understanding. Gut health, often overlooked, emerges as a central pillar. When the gut lining is supported through whole foods, fermented options, and reduced inflammatory triggers, immune signaling becomes calmer and more precise. This reduces the background noise that once amplified swelling. Movement becomes purposeful rather than compulsive. Gentle strength training improves insulin sensitivity. Walking stimulates lymphatic flow. Stretching releases tension held in connective tissues. Each action sends a message to the body that it is supported, not under threat. Over time, these messages accumulate. The morning puffiness fades faster. Rings fit more comfortably. Clothing feels less restrictive. And while the scale may still fluctuate, it no longer dictates your self-worth because you understand the difference between water weight and true change. This is where transformation truly occurs, not just physically, but mentally. You stop seeing your body as something to conquer and start seeing it as something to collaborate with. Midlife becomes a phase of recalibration rather than decline. The hormonal shifts that once felt destabilizing become signals guiding you toward better self-care. Inflammation becomes a cue to simplify, nourish, and rest. Stress becomes a reminder to slow down rather than push harder. This perspective is powerful because it returns agency to you. You are no longer chasing quick fixes. You are building resilience. You are creating an internal environment where balance can exist even as hormones evolve. And this understanding extends beyond fluid retention. It influences energy levels, digestion, mood, and confidence. When the body feels regulated, the mind follows. You begin to trust yourself again. You trust your choices. You trust the process. The discomfort that once caused frustration becomes a teacher rather than an enemy. And that is the true gift of understanding what your body is doing after 40. It is not failing you. It is inviting you into a deeper relationship with your health, one rooted in science, compassion, and long-term sustainability. As you carry this knowledge forward, remember that progress is not linear and perfection is not required. Small, informed steps repeated consistently are what create lasting change. Listen to your body, support it wisely, and allow this stage of life to be defined not by swelling or discomfort, but by confidence, clarity, and control reclaimed. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notifications so you can see our new videos early. When you respond with nourishment instead of restriction, with stability instead of extremes, the body begins to respond differently. The swelling that once felt like betrayal begins to soften. The puffiness becomes less persistent. The scale fluctuations feel less threatening because you understand their origin, and as this awareness builds, confidence returns. You realize you are not at the mercy of random changes. You are learning to interpret signals that were once misunderstood. The suspense gives way to empowerment, and empowerment opens the door to lasting transformation grounded not in punishment, but in physiological wisdom. It reminds you that your body is dynamic, intelligent, and capable of restoration. And as we move deeper into this journey, you will discover that the very symptoms causing frustration may actually be guiding you toward a deeper understanding of your health than you have ever had before.